You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Leftovers After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Leftovers After Show.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. We're doing the HBO's Leftovers After Show here at AFTERBUZZ TV. Let's just jump right in. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. This is going to be a crazy panel. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Kelly McInerny.
And I'm Alana Jordan.
And we're going to be taking you through the pilot episode 101 of The Leftovers. First of all, first reactions. What did you guys think of this pilot? We literally walked out of the screening room and into here, so we haven't even had time to process this insanity.
Just a lot going on. I don't know, like, woo.
I think it's brilliantly done how they're able to seamlessly tie all of these seemingly unrelated things together, all of the different storylines, and how they're focusing on this huge event, but instead of focusing on the global scale, just on this small town, the Mapleton, like, community.
Yeah, it was definitely an impressive pilot. We got a little bit, you heard, like, sort of Damon Lindelof's voice. Like, I know I was a big fan of him on Lost, and like we'll try to stay away from any Lost comparisons on this show. I've gotten in trouble with that before on other panels, but it has that same thing of like a grand, like some crazy, supernatural element to the show. But if you just focus on the small things, you almost forget that is even an issue. And you also definitely felt the presence of the director, Peter Berg, who, if any of you are not familiar, also directed Friday Night Lights, the movie, and the pilot of that show as well, Hancock, and the recent Lone Survivor. But you could feel this felt very cinematic, the way that it weaved in characters, introducing so many people that you didn't think were related at all, and then found out that they all truly intersected. Some of them related directly, not just their storylines. But let's get to right to our main character, who is Police Chief Garvey, Kevin Garvey, played by Justin Theroux. He did a fantastic job, first of all, on the show, and we meet him after we jump forward in time from the first disappearance with that baby. The baby disappeared.
Great. Well, I guess they didn't really kill a baby, so it's not bad.
We don't know if they killed a baby, I guess.
Yeah.
They do a lot of crazy things on this show, though. I think kind of where we were all taken aback the first time was when they shoot the dog.
Gosh, yeah.
That's insane.
I mean,
that goes against everything that you ever learn in film school or in television making. There's always save the cat, pet the dog. There's even books named after that.
Only, I think, HBO has the chutzpah to, in the first 5 minutes of a TV show, effectively kill a baby and shoot a dog, and then just keep going, as if nothing happened. That was just the introduction to The Leftovers. But then we keep going, and we actually get to meet Kevin. Like, he sees the dog, and he's like trying to find this guy. We get to know him as a good person, because his first reaction to the dog is to take the tags to its owner, let them know, try to break the news to them, let her lightly, that her dog's passed away. It was very nice. It was a nice thing to do, but she doesn't care, because that's the world that we live in. People just don't. What did you guys think about that? It seemed like just nobody in this world cared anymore.
Well, I don't know if it's so much apathy as just kind of, ambivalence. They don't know what to feel, because there's later this scene they're talking about if they feel abandoned or, burdened. And I feel that that's what most people in this situation are going through. And so they can all kind of relate, but they all kind of relate in their own confusion and misery and worry. And is this just the start of something else? This just happened. This could easily happen again.
Yeah, there's no explanation.
Right. And 3 years have passed. Nothing.
Yeah.
it's tough to imagine like what you're going through, and we're trying to piece together Chief Garvey's story in this whole world that he's dealt with, because we know that we sort of, as we learn about his family, we meet Jill, we meet Tommy, and we have no idea at first that they're related, but it's slowly pieced together when he calls him like, it's your daddy, which is a little bit weird. It's like, call your daddy, please. But then we know he's a good guy and he's trying to do right. I thought the dynamic between him and the mayor was very interesting.
Well, he's the chief of police, I guess, maybe. That's
yeah,
why.
but like they're not just. You would hope that the chief of police and the mayor are on good terms. They're very much not.
Yeah.
She's trying to throw this big parade for the whole town, and he doesn't want it to happen at all because it's Heroes Day is what they're calling it. And as one of the other officers points out, it's like these people weren't heroes, and that's like a big theme of the show is just where did these people go? Why are they gone? And we can kind of throw it out there like wild theories, which I'm sure we'll have lots of wild theories as we try to piece together what's going on this show. But it's these people are not necessarily good people. They're not necessarily bad people. I mean, what do you guys think how would you handle this if you were running this town? Like, is the mayor right in this situation that they need to honor these people, or is the danger, as Chief Garvey brings up, of a dangerous protest, of like the threat of an outside person hurting you for this Remembrance Day? What's the right thing to do?
Maybe not a parade. I feel like you should remember them, definitely, because even though all of them weren't good people, somebody still loved them, and they did something good. Had to. Everybody has a little bit good in them, and like you love them. But maybe not a parade because the GNR, maybe just, like on television, just list the names, kind of like 9/11. That's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, something not where you don't have a gathering.
Yeah.
I guess it's that's what he points out. You're asking for trouble by gathering everyone together. You're asking them to show up and protest.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets out of hand. Because as we sort of meet the GR, this is what I thought was very interesting, because the whole event didn't go into what happened. We never really spent that much time focusing on what happened. It just sort of was in the background on the news. We hear that scientist basically being attacked by a judge or a senator saying, you're telling me you don't know. Yeah. I imagine the government probably put a lot of money into what happened. And the scientists come up short, but they didn't really go into like, oh, it was Jesus. Nobody's really dealing with that. It's just cults forming. And we see a bunch of different cults on this show. The GR being the big one, but then Wayne and his compound being another, and they sort of imply as we go out throughout the episode that there are a lot more. But so what do you guys think about what's happening in this world that people are dealing? What switch got turned that day? Was it just that they didn't know, or is there something bigger at work? Is it that the best people are taking from us? I'm curious what you guys thought on just like on the mythology with almost no information to go on at this point.
Well, I thought touching back on something you mentioned before, the exposition through the different news reports throughout the episode, I thought was a brilliant way to kind of subtly bring in those different aspects. And in any sort of major catastrophe or major event, they tend to have the commentators with the arguing the scientific epistemology versus the religion, and putting people, you don't know, but we don't know either, so who's right? And really illustrating that I think is kind of a universal theme, and really touching on that and having that link into the different characters, I thought was just really cool. And I don't know if it's necessarily that it's, as Matt points out, as he's yelling in the parade.
Matt, played by Christopher Eccleston, which so excited to see him back on television. I'm a huge Doctor Who nerd, so the fact that he's on the show is just like, oh, I gotta watch this.
I am excited to see more from that character too. So I feel like he has a really good backstory that they just kind of touched on a little bit in this one. So I'm interested to see more about that. But as he was pointing out, these people had huge flaws. This isn't the best of the best. And then later with the exposition too, through the news report, Gary Busey, which I thought was a nice little comic relief.
That was a hilarious little roll of people. Like, you had Gary Busey, Shaquille O'Neal disappeared.
The Pope.
The Pope was gone. And I was like, Bonnie Raitt disappeared. Aw.
Much needed comic relief.
Yeah, that was a great moment. It was a nice little touch at the end there. But I think it raises some interesting questions about who these people are. What was the selection process? Because we get that voiceover at the beginning that's talking about 1 in 50. 1 in 50 people disappeared. 2% of the world's population. Not very many. They compare it to like plagues, like smallpox, where it was wiping out 95% of the population. It makes me think a little bit of the concept that in Christianity, I think it's mainly in Catholicism, of predestination. The idea that it doesn't matter what you do with life, who's going to heaven has already been decided. You can be the sinners and the saints alike will be brought into heaven because that's all, at least my understanding of it. It's just because. But that seems to be what's at work here. Is it's just 1 out of 50 people won the lottery for wherever. If you think they went to heaven, 1 out of 50 people won that lottery and it's gone.
Yeah.
Or was it aliens? I'm going to throw that word out very early. Did aliens just be like, we're abducting 2%? That's what we need to start a new human colony.
There were no beams or light or anything, though. It just was like...
I did like the expression on the baby Sam right before it happened.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. And I don't think it was an accident.
Yeah. And also, props to that baby.
Good
Everyone
acting,
on this show
baby.
is good, even the baby in the opening intro.
But they have it's almost like not a physical beam of light, because in a lot of ways this show is sort of this is the end, the drama.
Yeah.
Which is when I first heard the concept, I was like, oh, it's they saw Seth Rogen's movie and were like, we should do this, but as a serious drama, which I don't think Seth Rogen thought was going to happen. But it sort of like whatever that baby was seeing. And they talk about what the dogs saw, and we'll get into the dogs a little bit later in the show, but something about this event was so life-changing. So it changes the perspective on the universe that they're not the same anymore.
Well, apparently it also changes Wayne's physicality, because now he has the ability to remove other people's pain or burden, linking that back to Tom and Wayne and that scenario we haven't quite jumped into fully yet, but it seems that when they bring in the Congressman Whitten and Tom's explaining he can do this, he can make you feel better, and they don't show exactly what he does, but you can tell he already has this allegiance, this following of people, and has this nice compound, and
he has this way, at least at minimum, he has a way of talking to people that nobody else does. And I guess it remains to be seen if that's something like psychic, sort of supernatural, or if it's more grounded. If he's just a really good talker. But we'll talk a little bit more about Wayne and his compound and that whatever creepiness is going on there with his little Asian harem of women. But let's talk about the parade incident. Because that was the big build up of the show, especially for Chief and and the mayor and all the town. Is just we're slowly getting to this point of protest. We see the GR throughout the episode stalking people almost strategically in a way, and then they're the most peaceful protesters ever. All they do is hold up signs. They walk kind of nearby behind people. I figured they were going to come up behind the mayor and be standing right behind her, so that they're all looking over their shoulder. I mean, what do you think what is their goal? Who are these people? What is it about them? They don't talk. They don't, their meals are listed only as sustenance. What do you guys think is going on there?
I don't know. I feel like they're just there to remind you of the people that have gone, but I'm very confused with them because they don't talk. I guess they don't talk because there's no point wasting your breath figuring it out. Just accept it.
And that's one of their mottos, is this: stop wasting your breath. I had a little bit more insight on that because I talk about later, but
Yeah.
got to work on a little promotion for the show and had some insight for the GR. And their whole thing is basically they've just kind of, I won't say given up, but they feel that this is just something that's going to probably incite something else, that this isn't over yet. You're all acting like nothing has happened and you're trying to move forward, but don't move forward. There's no point in this. You're all just going to die anyway. So they smoke and do it not for fun, but just to kind of be annoying and to make a very vocal, without actually speaking, proclamation of their faith, which is don't believe in anything.
Yeah, I mean, the cigarettes are an interesting little touch, and you'll even hear a guy at the protest yelling, "Go take your cigarettes and get out of here." I guess it is sort of just like they are, in a way, they've given up on life, or they're just not worrying about it anymore. I wonder if they're the people who saw what happened, that saw people disappear.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be all of them, because we see
The woman,
later
baby.
on that the lady at the laundromat does make an appearance later on, but it's possible that it could be some of them.
Or maybe that's why she's, like, as her fiance says, like, she's going through some stuff. She's clearly very distant. She's not excited about her wedding. I wonder, what I'm thinking is that these are the people who saw what happened, so they saw something that they don't know how to reason. As the twins talk about with when they're burying the dog, and dogs saw it happen but couldn't figure it out. They're not burdened by trying to figure out or trying to put reason to it, so they just become feral. And to me, in a way, the cultists are feral, in a sense that they stop talking. They've emotionally sort of shut down in a way, at least in one sense. They don't exist in the same world as everybody else. They're trying to bring people over, and I think they're saying don't waste your breath. They're trying to show people this new perspective on the world that they alone saw. So I think Meg actually did see. She probably saw someone disappear in front of her.
Is that why do you think they're following certain people, though? Like Meg, and they kind of followed Garvey.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they're just... Maybe he did see something. Maybe it's just the way he's affected.
Maybe that lady disappeared. You know who I'm talking about? When he was at home cleaning the gutters? Maybe he saw that disappear. I don't know.
Whoever he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I just assumed that was his wife.
I thought it
I
was.
feel like a lot of that too, there was so much lead up to make it seem like his wife had vanished, and everything you're picturing it like, oh, he's with his wife and she just disappears, and oh, wouldn't that be horrible, and oh, Jill's lost her mother and she just vanished. But then
She didn't, yeah.
the show is just brilliant.
Although, yeah, then that would, if both my theories were correct, that would mean that he was with his wife when the people disappeared, but she's in the cult because she saw someone disappear. So who else was in the room?
Yeah. It may just be kind of how generally cults kind of prey on the mentally weak anyway, that they just find people that they feel are kind of on edge. And so them starting to follow him now is showing even more. He's just really getting to the breaking point because things are just piling up for him one after one. His wife leaves and joins one cult. His son leaves and joins another. His daughter is awful.
That's a crazy party.
And he's starting to have visions by the end of the episode. The way that Wayne talks about having dreams about his son coming back, he has been seeing this deer in, like, it was there and then it wasn't. It was in his dream, and then it shows up at the end of the episode very much in real life.
And when he's bringing the dog collar, he sees the deer.
Yeah,
Right.
He sees it. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's stalking him in a way psychically. So maybe he's at the 3-year mark, as Wayne puts it later. What did he say? He's therefore with and remember 3 years. 3 years is like a meaningful date. There's a reason we're catching up. We're starting on this show now, and that's going to be really interesting to find out as we go forward. And before we go forward with this podcast, we're going to take a little break and talk about iTunes. So guys, all you listeners at home, all you watchers on YouTube, first of all, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everyone here at AfterBuzz, the fact that you listen to us on all of our podcasts and now on this one, it means so much to us. And it doesn't just mean touch us right here in our hearts. It also helps us keep these lights on. So there's a lot of ways that you can help us keep the lights on here at AfterBuzz TV, and not just listening, telling your friends about the show, keeping the shows popular. Going on to iTunes and rating the show is very important to everyone here. Go on there, hit us with a 5-star rating. Let us know. Yeah, 5-star rating if you think we're good. I hope we're getting 5 stars from you guys. But rating the show doesn't just make us feel good about our days. I know I smile every time I see somebody review one of my shows. It also helps keep the podcast at the top of the search ratings. When people search for Leftovers podcast, they'll see this one first if you guys are rating us. But you can also tell us what you think of the show. You can go onto YouTube and we'll get into discussions throughout the season. You can let us know what you're thinking. What are your we want to know what your theories are on the show, because this is going to have, like any sci-fi type show, there's going to be some craziness going on as we move forward. And we may not catch everything. You guys may have ideas that we didn't, and we want to hear from you. So please let us know. And bonus, if you rate us on iTunes, you'll get a shout out here on the show. In these fun little iTunes segments, you might get to hear your name on this podcast. It's the biggest prize ever. Not really, but it will be fun. So let's get back into it, guys. Let's talk about Jill and Amy. Jill is, as we're not quite sure at first, but we learned she's Chief's daughter. And she's definitely going through a rough patch in her life.
A rebellious phase, kind of, too.
Well, I think the Jill-Amy dynamic really highlights that these kids have super been affected by this on a grand scale. These teenagers are acting insane now, and their best friends are being horrible to each other, and that's just socially acceptable.
I didn't go to a lot of parties in high school, but I don't think any of them were anywhere like that.
I never saw any burning of flesh, that's for sure. Like, intentional, like maybe cigarettes by accident.
If somebody's doing that at their parties, something is seriously wrong.
Like, it's insane.
But it wasn't, like, it was a great way to show that off, because it wasn't just, like, these kids are crazy, like, they have, like, a homemade wheel. This was an app, like an iPhone app that you could download, that you spun, and it would have everything from hug to, pardon my French, but fuck. It had, and then burn and choke. Yeah. The burn thing, I was like, oh, that's a little weird. But then choking, which goes so far as straight up just like autoerotic asphyxiation.
It's like spin the bottle on like heroin or something. It's crazy.
And it's apparently just a regular thing, because Scott and Adam, when they're waiting outside, even say, oh, did you place the spin? And they're like, yeah, of course. They always do, kind of mentality, which is, like, that's just the norm. That's insane.
I mean, when it lands on, when Amy spins it and lands on Nick for them to go hook up in the other room, like, she offers to not do it because she knows that her friend has a crush on this guy, but then she's like, oh, well, whatever, we'll just go do it anyway.
That was real messed up.
But like that scene with the choking, like, and she's doing it, and she's like, it's just a normal. She's done this. She's clearly done it before.
Yeah, and the guy is masturbating to it. Like, it's just messed up.
It's in the missing sister's room. It's just really highlighting. That was a great way to just highlight how ridiculous everything has become. It's just become in disarray. Everybody's trying to pretend like things are normal, but clearly nothing is normal anymore. Mm-hmm. There's just no getting around it. Nobody's going back. Kids aren't thinking about college. That's just not really an issue anymore, because nobody knows if they're even going to get tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think about, because these kids, I imagine they're, what, 15, 16 is what they're supposed to be? I don't think we heard what grade they're in. Mm-hmm. But, so they were 13 years old, approximately, when this happened. That's like the middle of your formative years, when you're really just starting to figure out who you are, and the world goes nuts as you're sort of growing up. I can't even imagine what that would be like. It's sort of like if everyone in your grade lost a parent as a 13-year-old. And so you're all going through a collective grief. And I mean, right in the opening, in Jill's first scene, I thought it was the Pledge of Allegiance announcement was very telling about this world, that everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The teacher doesn't even care. The teacher, I mean, I remember when I had to do the pledge, like, no, everybody gets up. Like, the teacher's like, no, you have to stand up. There were, of course, kids who just didn't want to say it, but then they had the prayer, and everybody does it in what appeared to be a public school. And
they added the "if you choose to," so that makes it seem.
But even that today is not allowed in a public school. But this is a different world that these people are living in. As we see, again, with the news reports, there's that one conversation between the guy who's touting the Bible now as if it's a science textbook. Like, no, we have a guide to this. It's called the Bible. And the argument of science versus religion, which on any show like this is going to be the big debate. Is there a scientific explanation to all this? Or is it religious? Is it just God's will? I'm not sure if we're ever gonna get that.
I'm interested to see how they continue that with the physics aspect versus these cult spin-offs versus the previous existing religions, and how all of that is subtly linked together but without being overbearing tones. So I like that. I think we're gonna get just little hints of it as it goes, just to piece together.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm happy that I saw is that I saw an interview at one point with Tom Perrotta, who's the who co-wrote this episode with Damon Lindelof, and he wrote the book that the show is based on of the same name. It's called The Leftovers. And he said that they know what the ending is, at least for now. They know where this is going. They figured it out already, which is always good to know for a mystery show. That the writers know where this is headed, so they can drop in little hints as we go. But so Jill's dealing with all that, and that's when after the party she finds the dead dog in her dad's the trunk of her dad's car. Just everyday thing.
Yeah.
Not a great night. Not a great night for anybody, really.
Yeah.
But especially for Jill, she had to choke a guy. And then she just has to bury a dog.
Best friends having sex with their crush,
And her dad also has to see a dog get shot in front of him, and then have all these crazy hit a deer. My kitchen's messed up. Now I don't know where my daughter is. She didn't come home. Yeah,
his son won't answer his phone calls either.
Yeah.
What's up with Tom?
Tommy is we meet Tommy first when he's picking up the congressman in some sort of super secret, like he had to get in like 5 different cars that took him in like any different direction until he finally got to this compound, which he had to be blindfolded to even show up. And so I guess we're seeing that even people of stature, even people who are in theory intelligent, I guess today the title congressman doesn't necessarily imply the smartest people in the world, but this guy he's going to this cult for help, as we sort of find out. At first I thought he was going to be, I don't know what you guys thought when he first showed up. I thought he was going to be like investigating the cult or like parlaying with them, is like trying to make peace with.
I thought they were going to like capture him or something with the blindfold. I thought they were just going to kill him or something. I don't know.
They've kidnapped.
I didn't really trust him. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? For now the cults seem peaceful. They've like purchased property. They're like the GR is not doing nonviolent resistance and all that. But yeah, it very easily could come
turn
violent.
Around and
and as Tommy drives him up, like it's a very secure compound. We get to meet Wayne, who we talked a little bit about earlier. But this, what do you think this guy's story is? Is he really seeing the truth, like some information that we don't have? I kind of think of him as a guy who's just super charismatic and maybe a little bit nuts.
That's how I kind of feel, because I feel like if he had that power, he'd be a lot bigger, I feel like it wouldn't just be a little compound. feel like a lot more people would try and get in on that action to like erase the pain.
Yeah. Although I don't know, maybe it is bigger than we've seen so far.
Yeah, maybe.
He clearly has like his choice. That the harem by the pool. I don't know what that is.
That's sad too. Speaking of the kids kind of going crazy, Christine obviously is only 16 years old. So she's somebody who, after it happens, as a 13-year-old, runs and joins this cult because she has nowhere else to go. And it really shows kind of how Wayne does have this power. And he sees that Tom and Christine have that
Bond.
kind of, with him getting her the candy.
Yeah.
Kind of shows you he sees everything. He's in charge of everything.
Yeah.
There's no getting anything past him.
Yeah. Well, we see the guard up at the top of the hill that like sees Christine talking to Tommy, and Tommy is like, "Oh, I should go." And she's like, "No, sit down." So those girls are very much being controlled. They're very much being monitored, and as Wayne puts it, like she's important. He tells Tommy to keep her safe.
And keep his hands off her.
Yeah. Am I the only one that when he said keep her safe, I just heard keep it secret, keep it safe.
Yeah.
But to about a 16-year-old girl. But he's like keep your hands off her. It's very. I'm very interested to see what Wayne's goal is here, because I doubt it's really to heal people.
There's something behind it.
Well, with any cult leader, it's typically not to heal people. It's to get something. It's some sort of objective.
Yeah.
And clearly it's working for him.
But if he's privy to some sort of information that we don't have, that it's like he could honestly, at least in his mind, be working towards a higher goal. It's possible.
Well, it seems like it with the watch and remember, and him talking about his son and how he visits his dreams and how there is a meaning behind it. It's not just a random happenstance. There's some bigger thing that is to come that he feels that he's privy to, and now he has to tell everybody else to watch and remember, to be visual, to keep this in mind, that this happened, and that that's not the end of it.
And it very well could be something. It very well could be something good coming. Could be something horrible coming that could be happening today, on this day. 3 years, like now, whatever he was foretelling, it's coming, and quickly. Any more thoughts on Wayne and Tommy? I mean, Tommy's been out of reach. His dad won't reach him. So I feel like they're gonna meet up at some point soon.
I did like the line when Congressman Whitten is in the car and he's asking if he goes to college, and he says no, and then you see that flashback too, kind of letting you know that, again, everything has just gone insane, and that he just doesn't see the point. And he says, your parents must be so proud, before you realize that his parents are Kevin, who is emotionally broken as well, and then leading to the big reveal of the episode, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that just the watching those two people just jump off, and like it just pans down to him standing there.
It was so quick too.
Those little jumps back, I thought were a really nice touch, like just a really nice editing touch to the whole episode of just like dropping in like this really just quick moment of exposition that were always super jarring and didn't even always give us a full picture of information. Like we don't really, I guess I just assumed, but we don't know who Chief was having sex with in his little flashback.
Or if his dad went crazy. Remember when?
Just a big dude running naked through the looked like cops footage.
Yeah.
But the big reveal of this episode, as we've built up, and we were watching the GR, we're watching the violent protest, or the peaceful protest that gets violent when people freak out. We're seeing Jill go through her thing, and Tommy, and we're learning all these people are connected, and then Chief is out drinking. And he runs into the mother from the top of the episode, who we hadn't seen before, but she's clearly just like doesn't know what to do. We learned in her opening speech that whoever her guy wasn't helping her, and she was just sort of on her own. And then when they're talking and she just asks where were you, and she wants to know what his theory is, like just like all of us, like what do you think is happening here?
Yeah.
I love that bookend, having them meet in that bar and having the opening scene be her, and then that being just kind of a minor character that then links the whole thing together.
Yeah, because I was wondering kind of what happened to her. I thought at first Lori was her. When I first saw Lori brushing her teeth, I thought it was the mom, but then I realized it was a different person.
Yeah, but and then when she asks him why, she says ours is not to reason why, and that's sort of that's clearly, at least at that point, his perspective on the world is like, it doesn't matter why or how, it happened. We have to now pick up the pieces. We have to keep the peace. This is his job. Keep the peace, as the mayor says. Keep the peace.
Yeah.
And then of course he sees the guy that shot the dog, and we're like, go get him, go track him down, go the dog killer. Of course we don't like, at least at that point. But then
Of course.
but he loses him again, and so he just starts drunkenly drives away.
Well, he sees the GR.
Yeah. Oh, who
So
are now
then-
stalking him.
And now stalk him, because now after he intervened, and then we start getting, we see where is he going, what is he gonna do. The GR's triggered, what leads us to this. That's what I just lost my mind when
Yeah.
I linked the big final thing together, that Lori
Lori is his wife. This
She
person,
hasn't vanished.
this silent person who we've just been following throughout the episode, just smoking cigarettes, eating oatmeal for sustenance. She wanted to go to the protest. She wanted to be there where she knew her husband would be. Although I guess wouldn't he have seen her?
Maybe
Or maybe
she was following Meg. They gave her that assignment, so I think she was still doing that. Because no, you're right.
Because she asks at the beginning, like she sees the list of people.
But I never saw her out there. I feel like they would have.
I feel like there was a lot of people though, and maybe he
That's
was
true.
trying to.
There's maybe the people that got named on the list, they were the ones who got to hold signs, and everybody else was the ones hanging in the background. And in fairness, Chief was a little distracted.
By a shoe in his eye, right? That's what happened.
Yeah, he got hit by a shoe.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wonder if it's the people that are stalking them. The people they're stalking, rather, are the ones who they want to join them.
That's what I think. I think they're targeting the weak, because it works with Meg, and so I feel like that's what it is. Is they're that juxtaposed with Kevin's stories, almost showing, hey, somebody else has already got your son. We've got your wife.
I actually think it's not they're targeting the weak. I think it's the opposite. I think that the people they're targeting are people who are important in some way.
They just want to be visible is a big thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they make it very clear that he's not welcome when he arrives to try to win Lori back.
At least in his current state. But I think what I'm thinking is, like, if they're stalking, if they're out to get Meg, they're tracking her down. Like, we know that there's something. We don't really know her story yet. But if they're tracking these people down in order to recruit them, are they more important than we realize? He's having these, like, when he sees the deer again, and like that he dreamt of. He dreamt of this deer. It's like stalking him. There's something. Does it mean that there's something about him that is bigger than anyone knows at this point, except maybe the GR?
Do you think though? I thought maybe they were targeting him because nobody disappeared out of his family.
That's an interesting thought.
Nobody did, and I don't know. I'm assuming maybe none of Meg's, because Meg had a fiance already. But I mean, it's 3 years.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, yeah, I feel like most families wouldn't be affected,
That's
because
true.
it's like 1 in 50. They say, as they say in the opening thing, it's unlikely that your family was even affected.
Yeah.
But
There's still 140 million people globally, so that's you're going to be affected in some way.
yeah, and like when they were listing off those numbers of countries, and then it was like 1.5 million. China, 25 million. Chinese got hit pretty hard.
Well, that lets you know that it's proportionate to the space, that it wasn't one place more than another. It was globally completely spaced out, just randomly 2%, which makes it even more of a mystery, because that in itself intrinsically seems like it should have some sort of methodic reasoning for it. So I'm just excited to see where it goes, like where they take the whole storyline.
But that the moment where they reveal that Lori is his wife was just like boom. It changes the whole dynamic of the show in that instant, because it ties together all of the different pieces, and it's just this intricately woven web that I can only imagine will get more intricate. We'll find out who I'm assuming that either Matt is Christopher Eccleston's character is either he's like somebody who's trying to form a cult, or is just he's sort of affected in the same way, but no one wants to follow him.
I don't think that it's that he wants to form a cult. I think it's mostly that he's acting out to justify to himself why he wasn't taken. Like, it's not that we're bad people, that we were left. These weren't all the good people that were taken. It's not that we're being punished. It's not that I wasn't raptured because I'm not great. This wasn't the rapture. This is something else. They didn't take everybody who should have been according to what we were told. So it's that cognitive dissonance that just tweaks it and just kind of makes him insane. So that's why I just want to see all these characters are crazy in the most interesting ways.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like and they're all set up in such a way that like I can't wait for more to happen to them, because how they're all so different while all living in the same world, that how they each react to what is inevitably just going to get crazier and crazier and crazier as we go. Is they have a really great blueprint, and that's like why I've really enjoyed this pilot, is that there's a great blueprint for them to go forward with. And so let's talk about that last scene really quick.
It's so brilliantly strung together how they add this supernatural aspect of the dogs.
Yeah.
The dogs and the deer. Like, the dogs are the clearest evidence that people left behind were affected in a real way, not just like, oh, the stress got to us. These dogs were truly changed forever. They just rip that. First of all, they're traveling in a pack, which I mean dogs do, but not to that level. And they just rip into this deer while let's have a conversation. Let him have his conversation, please.
Yeah.
What do you think what does the deer symbolize to Garvey, to the show, I guess?
I think that's one of the big questions that they're going to keep kind of stringing along, is what does this represent? He keeps seeing it, and I almost wonder if it's the last of his sanity, because it just gets ripped to shreds, and then the man that opens the whole thing shooting the dog, and he says, "They're not our dogs anymore." Earlier you said they're our dogs. They're not our dogs anymore. And Scott and Adam mentioned too, all the dogs have gone crazy, and it's going to happen to us too. It's just taking longer.
Yeah.
So I almost feel if that line was dropped in with that last scene to be like, look, you're going to lose it. There's just no way around it. You can try to act like you're going to hold it together, but you're going to snap. Everybody's snapping.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point. And there's just I'm so looking forward to what we're going to talk about. Let's move into some quick news and gossip before we wrap out.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So yeah, I had a cool opportunity to do a little promotion for HBO's The Leftovers. They did in Los Angeles and New York this giant scale promotion where they had people decked out like the guilty remnant. So there's me with some of the team, and I got the chance to lead a group of people dressed like the guilty remnant through the street to stand there and really just kind of stir up people saying, you know, what's happening, and with confusion being kind of the premise of the show. It worked really well.
What kind of reactions did you get from the people in the crowd? Like, you're right there.
It's insane.
In front of...
People were so confused. They were asking questions. They were coming up to these people who then can't talk. And then there's, asking what's happening. And the only two things they can hold up on their whiteboards are "stop wasting your breath" and we are living reminders.
Oh my.
So people say, well, who are you? What are you doing? We are living reminders. Well, what is this? Stop wasting your breath. So really funny when like police officers or someone would walk up and then you have the stop holding your breath sign.
I feel like you just show them the
losing it.
matchbooks that say HBO, and
Yeah,
they're like, oh, okay.
That's why I was like, well, there's a hashtag right there, guys. It's pretty easy to figure it out.
And I mean, the Leftovers billboards are covering this city. Like, they're everywhere in Los Angeles right now. So I think
I
they're
love how
probably
cryptic
aware.
those are too. Everything about the show.
Yeah, with the faces of everybody.
Yeah, and they're very much nice.
Thank you.
We are the Leftovers. And let's do a quick round of predictions before we wrap out, do our sign-offs.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I love that music. It's so creepy. So what do you guys think? What do you think we're gonna see next week on this show as we go forward? What's your biggest prediction of where we're headed?
I don't know. I don't even know. I feel like we're gonna see more of the deer or something.
You don't think we're done with it?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it's a good point.
I feel like he's still gonna keep seeing something. You know, he keeps having these visions. I don't know, but it's just hard to tell. And I feel like Meg is joining the cult for good. I feel like they're just gonna keep her there.
I think so too. I think that's the last time that we see her speak.
Yeah, which is all right.
Which is
got
sad
a
because
quiet
Liv Tyler
voice.
has a beautiful
That would be
voice.
It's
Which
quiet
is the
though.
opposite.
No, it's quiet.
That would
I like it though. But
that would be very interesting if they cast like easily the biggest star in their show in Liv Tyler and don't have her speak at all.
Yeah. Well, I saw an interview where she was saying originally it was supposed to be a redheaded 20-year-old and it was one page in the script, and for whatever reason she fell in love with it and was like, I want to be that, make this something cool. And they
Interesting.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to that. I think this is going to be a wild out there prediction, but I think we're going to see Chief he's going to be like the football star who's being recruited by all these different colleges. We're going to have, I think, Wayne, like whatever is going on with him is very important to a lot of stuff. And I think Wayne might come after him through Tommy. I think the GR might come after him through Lori. They're going to want everyone's going to want him on their side. And he's just going to, all he wants is to just protect the peace. He just wants to be a person. He doesn't want to be a leftover.
Just a good cop. That's what he wants to do. I feel
exactly.
Like that's what he...
Yeah. So we are the Leftovers, and we are your Leftovers panel. How's that for a sign off? So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode, the pilot of The Leftovers. We're going to be here every week talking about the show. So we hope to see you next week. Guys, where can the people find you if they want to catch you elsewhere?
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram too at Holly Weirdo.
And you guys can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, all those places at that Zach Wilson, ThatZachWilson. And also here at AfterBuzz on Dominion, and later on this summer on The Shield. Or not The Shield, The Strain. Very different shows. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.